Hey guys, so I want to make a final build update to my multi-mirror Gemling stat stacker. This build is now pretty much complete. It is fully built. It's multi-mirrors, probably around 8 to 10 mirrors. It's by far one of the best builds I have ever played in Path of Exile. That includes Path of Exile 1. The build is pretty much immortal. I haven't even died since I made my last video. So yeah, this build is just absolutely cracked. It's extremely fast, one of the highest DPS builds in the game, and also one of the tankiest builds in the game, and also one of the fastest builds in the game. So I want to do a complete character overview, a showcase, not so much of a guide. That's more so my last video. Yeah, so here's some map gameplay. I'll go over a boss real quick as well to shoot a single target. But yeah, this build is just absolutely cracked. There is only one downside, which I will go over. But yeah. So here is Zesh 4 in a 5-person party. So he has over 200 million life, which is roughly 7 times more HP than he usually has. And you can see the DPS here is completely overkill, and this is while using Magic Find gear. So yeah, that was 200 mil damage in 4 seconds, roughly 50 million DPS. And you can get like 3 times higher DPS in this if you actually use the proper gear, like use curses, use exposure. I really didn't do any of that. I just went in and used my normal setup. But yeah, you can get insanely high DPS, so overkill for content that just doesn't even exist currently in the game. I just want to show what the DPS looks like in my current gear with MF setup. It is still just completely overkill. You don't really need any more DPS, which I did want to showcase because, yeah, there isn't any reason to get more DPS at this point. So here is the character. I'll quickly go over all the items, all the jewels, all the choices I've made. Currently at 642 strength, 1245 dexterity, and 816 intelligence, with 9,000 energy shield, roughly 4.5k life, and 3.7k mana. Now this energy shield does also double with Grim Feast, so 18k energy shield in maps is pretty common. Like I said, I'm immortal, like essentially just immortal in this game. I cannot die. It can definitely go to 100 deathless. This character is just absolutely cracked. Now the only thing you may notice is the low chaos res. So I actually was playing at 50% chaos res, but I went down because I just don't even notice it. So I dropped chaos res to get more rarity because I just didn't need it. I wasn't dying at all. So yeah, I am low on chaos res, but it doesn't seem to matter when you're this tanky. If you're wondering, I am at 2 million tooltip DPS with only 2 things given damage, is primal and martial tempo, with 287% rarity. So 330% rarity is also possible if you get a mirror tier 62% rarity ring. I'm currently using a 51% rarity ring with a strength implicit corruption, which is very, very strong when combined with ingenuity and Calandra's touch. So yeah, roughly 330 to 340% rarity is possible. I've just been using this because it is very strong. But of course, getting something like this is a lot harder than actually just getting a mirror tier ring. So to go over the gear real quick, we just have an attack speed implicit staff with 2 attack speed soul cores. A zero sustain. This is where you get all of your flat energy shield from. So without this helmet, I practically have like no ES. So a zero sustain gives you all the flat. It is 29% of your maximum life as extra energy shield, 30% if you work roll. And then all my jewels have increased energy shield. So this is where all my ES comes from. It's both the helmet and the jewels combined. This is why I'm not going to CI. I should not, like, CI is not good for this build. You don't need it. You're using 1 point or 2 points in my case to drop 4.5k life. It's just not worth it. KS damage does no damage to me anyway because I have so much HP. It's never a danger. Some people use the timeless heroic jewel to transfer their strength of life into percent energy shield, which is just not good for this build because you need life for Azure Sustain to give you that much flat ES. So yeah, I do think Azure Sustain is the best high-end version because it makes you the tankiest in the game. It's not necessarily the highest DPS, but like I said, and why I showed a case that boss before, you don't need more DPS. You kill anything instantly in the game, so going for more DPS at this point, it's just dumb. There is no point. The only stats that matter at this point is essentially speed, rarity, and tank stats, right? Just never die, because my damage is already essentially capped. I get in more damage as a change anything at this point, right? So yeah, that's why I'm using Zero Sustain. It is, I think, in my opinion, the current state of the game, the best helmet to use on this build in the high-end version. Of course, a corrupted Astromentus with 11 dex as well. Like I said, this build is fully max, and this is also perfect. 7 attributes with 100 attributes, quality of course as well. 5 socket Moria Invictus with all res attributes, pretty standard for this type of build. Also using rarity soul cores and all res soul cores until cap, and then everything else is rarity. as it is kind of hard to get res cap in this build. Rarity boost with double res, life, and ES. So this is important. Life is also ES because of Azirius Sustain. Life is pretty good. And it's also, on top of that, energy shield base as well. So these boots do give a good chunk of ES, roughly like, 1.1k, while also giving that rarity as well, and the resist does help me cap. Near perfect corrupted on Hoa, 4% increased attack speed and 1 to 12 lightning damage. If you are wondering, I do think that 1 to 12 lightning damage is more important than the attack speed. A 96% ingenuity belt, 98% is the highest, but there were like 4 mirrors, so I didn't really feel like playing that. This one's like 2 mirrors. Melted Maelstrom Mana Flask, this is extremely good for this build because you are mind over matter. A Thorin Charm, never been frozen with this, and because you have so much HP, you also never get stunned. So for the most part, I'm freeze immune, and not stun immune, but I never get stunned because you have so much HP, and stun threshold is based off your HP. Or Last Flask, not needed whatsoever. I actually never price my Life Flask because the monsters really never get through my full ES plus mana pool. So yeah, this is not needed whatsoever. I just have it because why not? So we'll go over the passive tree and jewels next. They kind of are intertwined. Of course, I'll have the full Mobalytics link down below as well. But like I said, all jewels essentially look like this, where it's increased maximum energy shield, critical hit chance, or critical strike damage. And now on the topic of critical strike damage versus critical hit chance, you do roughly want your critical hit damage to be above your critical hit chance because there is more value from getting critical hit damage. I would say a good goal is like 35% crit and like 40% crit multi. I'm pretty much almost there. It is hard to get really good jewels as all my jewels are corrupted with implicits, which is very important because I am using Adorn. So yeah, these are all magic jewels because of Adorn and all either like 9 or 10 stat implicits. The only low one I have here is 7 intelligence, and this is the one jewel that is different, where it's 20% lightning pen and 16% crit. You do want one jewel with lightning penetration that does help versus those resistance maps. Combined with your lightning pen and your weapon, it gives you 50% pen, and that's quite nice for the 75% resist maps. Like I said, every other jewel is corrupted with maximum energy shield, critical strike damage, or critical hit chance with an implicit. Some are chaos res, some are dex, some are intelligence, some are strength. Doesn't really matter all that much. So now for the other combo is the From Nothing plus Against the Darkness. So 4% increased dexterity and 4% increased intelligence in the spot right here. You get very high value crit nodes, and these crit nodes also give attributes, so it's really good. You get Spaghettification, which is 7% increased attributes. Then Event Horizon and Searing Stars are useless, but they do give the increased attributes, so you might as well grab them. So it's From Nothing from Residence. This is the best spot to use it if you are the crit build, and crit is the way to go at high end. The other unique tool I can show off is my Megalomaniac. Now don't try to copy this. You can't really copy these one-to-one. You have to search for your own. Search for all the good notables on your tree and try to find one. This roughly costed 1 mirror. And the reason why it's so good is that you get both Wildstorm, which is like 9% more DPS, extremely strong node, and a Martial Artistry, which is extremely strong because it gets 25 flat dex, crit damage, and accuracy. And accuracy is movement speed because of Falcon Dive. It's an extremely good Megalomaniac. Like I said, you can't really copy one-to-one, but this is definitely one of the best ones you can get, as Wildstorm is the highest DPS node, and then this also saves 4 points, so extremely good Megalomaniac. Besides that, if you want to see the rest of my jewels, like I said, they're all pretty much the same. I do have 2 jewels with resist, 10% cold resist, so I get 40% lightning resist on boots, 40% fire resist, and then 2 jewels with 10%. They get doubled through Adorn, so they're 20% each to give me res cap. I also have 1 jewel at rage on melee hit. If you have 100% Adorn, this is pretty optimal. This 1 rage becomes 2 rage on melee hit, and the reason why that's good is because then it allows you to drop rage on your support gems. If you don't have 100% Adorn, you'll still want to use a rage support gem, or else you just won't generate enough rage, because 1 rage on melee hit just isn't enough, but 2 does seem to be good enough. Here are the last of my jewels. They're pretty much all done. They're all like 9 out of 10 implicit. And then of course the Adorn, 100% increased effect of socketed jewel passive skills containing corrupted magic jewels. This is why all the jewels are magic and corrupted, and does also increase the implicit, making this extremely strong for the build. So yeah, that's pretty much go over the whole passive tree if you just want to see it real quick. It's just a regular stat stacker, just min-max to the highest with Adorn. Last thing we can go over real quick is just the gems and the choices here. So I kind of already explained Tempest Flurry, but yeah, Primal Armaments, Martial Tempo. Something to note with Tempest Flurry, the max attack speed you can go is actually 30.3 attacks per second because of the tick rate of the server. If you go past this attack speed, you actually start skipping attacks, and it makes you go slower. So keep this in mind when you make your own character. If you do get this high geared, you don't want to go past this 30.3 attacks per second, or else you'll actually go slower. So I'm pretty much at movement speed cap for this character. I cannot really go any faster. This is just the max speed, which is still, obviously extremely fast. And movement speed does not affect your speed with Tempest Flurry. I just have movement speed on boots, so to get around like corners and pick up loot better. It does feel nice to have movement speed on boots. Besides that, we have Bullseye for more accuracy. Like I said earlier, more accuracy is attack speed, so this does give me attack speed. Lending Penetration for the resistance maps. Inspiration for mana cost. Then Tempest Spell, we have Conk Effect, Rise in Tempest, Close Combat, Leverage, and Overabundance. Just generic damage support for your Tempest Spell. I pretty much only press this on the map boss or Uber bosses. Besides that, everything else in the map just instantly dies. Held of Thunder and Held of Ice with, of course, the Hell Attack. So making a Held of Thunder do cold damage through Cold Infusion, Glaciation, Ice Bite, Cold Penetration, and then Ambush for the increased critical strike chance. Then Held of Ice with Magnified Effect, Overcharge, Conduction, Innervate, and Shock Siphon. Now Shock Siphon is just kind of nice for burning ground maps. Outside of that, it's not really needed, but more damage and Held of Ice is also not really needed, so it's just a nice last support gem for some utility. If you are wondering, my Held of Ice is 6.1 meters. Then we have Grim Feast and Wind Dancer with Precision and Blind. I don't think Unbreakable works, but I do have it in the Wind Dancer. I also have the Weapon Swap. Now this Weapon Swap enables Cast on Shock and Combat Frenzy. This is only for Uber Pinnacle bosses. Outside of that, I don't use it. Same with Charge Staff. I only use Charge Staff for Uber Pinnacle bosses. It does not seem worth to press this at all on maps at my gear level, because Tempest Flurry already instantly kills everything, and pressing this just makes you go slower, at least at my gear level. And also, if you were to use Charge Staff, you would need to spec 1 point of resonance. And also, one last thing, I am low on 97, so if you were to get higher, like 98 or 99, one thing I would do is spec out of Battle Harden and get 3 points for Deep Trance. This would be some more attack speed, so you spec out some more dex, and then you get the 4% increased dex and intelligence here. I don't really care for reduced mana cost, but this would be the last 3 efficient points you could get in the build. So I think that wraps everything up about the character. I am sacrificing quite a bit to get full rarity on my gear. You are giving up a ton of stats here. Obviously, you're missing up to 49 attributes just from the suffix alone right here, 30 attributes here. So you are giving up quite a bit to get all this rarity. But like I said, my damage is so overkill. I kill everything instantly. There's no reason to get anything but rarity at this point. You can definitely get way more attributes though if you wanted. If you want to get 0 rarity, you probably get like 1200 intelligence, 1200 dex, and also 600 strength. But like I said, it's just not needed. Anyway, that's the whole character. If you have any questions, feel free to comment below. Just want to showcase the final version of this character. There is nothing else to upgrade at this point, outside of maybe going for the Mirror Tier ring, but I do like the strength implicit. Anyway, that's about it.